Welcome to Biz Filing's Expert Insights.
Hi, I'm Greg Corombos. Our guest this week on Expert Insights is Sandra Feldman, publications attorney for CT Corporation. She joins us today to offer her expertise on mergers and acquisitions involving small businesses. She will also discuss some of the most important information you need to know about the business when considering merging with another entity or acquiring one, and how to make sure you get all that information that you need. So Sandra, great to be with you again. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Greg. You know, when you say mergers and acquisitions, a lot of people think of the billion-dollar deals they read about involving well-known huge corporations. But small businesses are involved in mergers and acquisitions too. In fact, during the height of COVID-19, some small businesses decided to merge, thinking that combining operations could save money and help them survive. COVID also created some really good opportunities for small businesses with money to acquire businesses that weren't doing as well.
All very good points. So it's important that everybody knows what they need to know before heading in this direction, because a lot of businesses are looking for different opportunities right now. So when an opportunity like a merger or an acquisition presents itself, how does a small business owner know if it's a good idea to do that deal?
There's a lot involved in that, and more than I can discuss today. But one of the keys is for the small business owners to learn as much as they can about the business they're considering doing the deal with. The prospective buyer needs to know what it would be getting, not only to decide if it wants to buy that business, but to determine what's a fair price. And its target, that is the seller, will want to know if this is someone they want to sell to. And all of this fact-finding occurs during a process called due diligence, which is a critical part of any M&A transaction.
So let's talk about that due diligence. What kinds of information are we talking about that a small business owner needs in order to decide if they should go ahead with the merger or acquisition?
Well, the more information, the merrier. But today, I wanted to tell people about 5 things it's important to learn about a business before deciding if a merger or acquisition with it is a good idea. And the first important information I want to point out is whether each company is in good standing in its state of formation. And here I'm talking about businesses owned by a legal entity, like an LLC or a corporation, rather than owned by an individual. In good standing means the company has paid its taxes, filed its annual reports, and basically has complied with the requirements of its governing state statute. And one reason to make sure each side is in good standing is that the states typically won't file documents for companies that aren't. So, for example, if you're thinking of a merger, you wouldn't be able to file the merger documents. But more importantly, if a company is not in good standing, that can be an indication it's having financial problems or other issues that led it to become delinquent in its obligations. And that's something to take into consideration.
So how easy or hard is that? How can you find out if a company is in good standing?
It's public information, so you can search the Secretary of State's online database. But it's a better idea for each company to provide the other with a certificate of good standing. And that's a document you can order from the Secretary of State that attests to the fact the company was validly formed, still existing, and is in good standing.
So that's the first of the 5 pieces of important information. What's the second?
Well, it's also important to find out if there are any liens or other encumbrances on the business's assets. So you'll want to do a UCC search, and that will uncover any UCC-1 financing statements. A UCC-1 is a document providing notice to the searcher that someone has claimed to have a security interest in an individual or an entity's property. You'll also want to do a search to see if there are any tax liens or judgment liens or any other claims that can impact your decision to do the deal or affect the price.
And if you want to learn more about UCC-1 filings and how to address them if they're done incorrectly, check out one of our more recent podcasts with Sandra. She goes through all of those critical details. So, Sandra, we've talked about making sure the businesses are in good standing, checking to see if they're facing any liens. What's next on the list?
Well, the third piece of information has to do with business licenses. Nearly every kind of business needs some licenses, permits, or registrations, and a prospective buyer will want to make sure the target has been operating with all the licenses, permits, and registrations it's required to have. And the fourth has to do with another important intangible asset that businesses have, and that's their intellectual property, trademarks, patents, copyrights, and the like. These are very valuable assets. And a small business owner will want to make sure that a business it's considering a merger or acquisition with has protected its intellectual property. For example, that it registered its trademarks with the state or federal trademark office.
So let's get to the last piece now. What's the 5th and final piece of information a small business owner really needs to have?
Final piece of information that needs to be part of the due diligence process that I'll mention is one a lot of people are not aware of. There's a federal agency called the Office of Foreign Assets and Control, or OFAC, that puts together a list of foreign countries, individuals, organizations, and entities who, for national security reasons, U.S. citizens and entities cannot do any business transactions with. And this list is in a searchable database called the Specially Designated Nationals and Blocked Person List. And before entering into a merger or acquisition, you want to find out if the other party is doing business in a country on the list, or as individuals associated with it who are on the list, or if it's conducting business with any entities on the list. And if so, that's something to consider when deciding whether to do the deal.
So many factors to consider, Sandra, and obviously there's more than the critical 5 pieces of information you just mentioned there. So what final comments or advice do you have for a small business owner considering a merger or acquisition?
Well, like you said, I would remind them that there's a lot more involved in the due diligence process than what I talked about today. And I'd also like to point out that there are M&A advisors who can help if the small business owners don't want to do it themselves. And I should also mention that corporate service companies like CT can also help with the fact-finding by doing things like obtaining the certificate of good standing or doing the UCC and lien searches.
Excellent insights as small business owners possibly get started on a new opportunity with a merger or acquisition or some other type of transaction. So, Sandra, very critical information, especially right now, as we mentioned earlier. So thank you, as always, for your time and your very good insights.
Thank you, Greg.
Sandra Feldman is publications attorney at CT Corporation. I'm Greg Corumbus, and for more information on this topic, please visit bizfilings.com.
Biz Filings, a Wolters Kluwer company, has been incorporating businesses since 1996.